Hi everyone, it's Kiara Urban, and today I'm going to be talking you through my songwriting process, what led up to the songs for Girl Drama, and just everything I find interesting about them, and just sharing my story. Alright, let's go! So my songwriting journey actually started when I was pretty young, when I started taking piano lessons, and the first inspiration I had was actually from some bullies. So I was bullied since I was young, up until now, because even now there are some girls, they say some really suspicious things, and I'm like, you're in your mid-20s, come on, grow up. I was looking for some kind of outlet to deal with my bullies because at the time my parents just said, just stand up for yourself, whatever. And what I found out, when you retaliate against a bully, it actually makes it worse. Then I started writing this song kind of inspired by Sailor Moon, where, you know, Sailor Moon's fighting these villains, and to me, I was fighting these bullies. Kind of funny how little my songwriting inspiration has changed since I was 10, because even now I'm dealing with girls and I'm just like, Fast forward, I guess, 10 years, we have Girl Drama, and the context in which I wrote all 6 of the songs happened between my 3rd and 4th year of university. So I was still exposed to a bunch of social cliques. I was exposed to boys being weird. Every single song in Girl Drama is written about one specific person. The early songs I wrote them for open mics, and I wrote simple chord progressions so then I could invite musicians to come up on stage with me and be like, these are the 4 chords, and I thought this idea of a band was really cool. And then the songs that came afterwards, I already had a band, so then I started writing slightly more complicated chord progressions, not too much yet because I was still a little nervous. And then the most recent songs, I really just get confident with my songwriting. So the early songs in this album, which are Create a Fire, Reopen, when I wrote them around the open mic period, I was dealing with some girl drama of my own, dealing with like friend group breakups, and a lot of like not fun social things. And you could kind of see in my songs, they're not completely confident. They're trying to create this persona of confidence kind of as the music progresses. The later songs, I've fully kind of come into this new version of myself where I've finally moved past all the friend group breakups. And that took some time. I mean, I wrote the songs spanning over 2 years, but to me that makes this EP very personal because it's a very transitional EP from kind of my old self to finally learning how to deal with all the troubles and just feeling better about myself in general. And then towards the most recent song, which is Sick of It, you can see it's just pure fun. I'm confident. I've gotten over all this sadness and drama in my life. When I look at this album, to me it's an indirect way of fighting back. So that's kind of the overview of the album, the EP. And now I'd like to take you guys on a more detailed explanation of every single song on the track because there's so much I want to say and I really want to share it. So now I want to take you guys through all the songs on the track list. I'm also going to speak about the songs in the order I wrote them rather than the track list on the album because I think that's slightly more interesting and then you can see kind of the evolution. I'll just go over some inspiration and some facts about the songs that I find interesting that I always want to share. Okay, so the first song, we have Create a Fire. And Create a Fire, I wrote it when I got into a fight with one of my old friends. And then before we had a chance to resolve anything because it was super messy, the friend group kind of cut me off and I was like, oh, there go all my friends. And this song kind of helped me get over that period. Basically saying, oh, you guys are going to be coming back to me because I was the most interesting person in your friend group. I made everything happen. I planned all the hangouts and blah, blah, blah. I created that fire and you're going to be running back to me. Yeah, they never came running back. But this song helped me kind of get over that hurt and helped me feel better because it was a nice outlet. It was written when I was doing open mics, so the chord progression is pretty simple. It's the same 4 chords over and over again. We got our minor 1. And then we go to our modally mixtured major 4 chord. Oh, so good. And then we have our Neapolitan flat 2 chord in the wrong inversion. And our strong dominant 5th, which pulls us right back to the 1 chord. That's the guitar part. This song was the first song that I wrote. It's the first song I brought to Aakash. It's the first song on the track list. It's the first song that starts all my shows, so it's a big #1 song. Mood setting, here's the tone for girl drama. That's its main role. I was once performing this song at an open mic, and I was doing my normal rhythmic patterns until I got to the chorus and I wanted to do something different, and I didn't have it planned out, and so my fingers froze, and that's how the shots were born. And someone in the crowd went, "Oh, that's so good!" And that's why I do the shots, and that carried over to the record. That's the backstory behind that. So thank you for stage fright. Okay, next song we have Reopen. Reopen, written around the same time. So I wrote about this guy. He was giving me clear signs that he liked me, and I was like, oh my god, okay, maybe I like him back. Okay, I'm gonna start liking him. And then when I started making moves, he was kind of like going backwards, and he was like, never mind, it's not gonna work. So I was like, okay, fine, it's not gonna work, don't act like that. But then he started like showing interest again, and it's just that back and forth, like I think he just wanted attention. Also written during the open mic period, simple chords. Just over and over again. The only part that was different was, which I remember I told the musicians during the open mics to just wait for me to nod, and then cut out, and then come back in when I nod again. That was my early days of band leading with random musicians. The dance feel of it came from the melody itself. I'm out, I'm free, leaving you alone, stepping out, falling free to lose you. And just no matter which musician played on this track, it was just always had that dancing feel. This song was also very quick to write. Contrasting to my other songs, it's just kind of a static song, just immediately from. And I wrote like 4 or 5 verses for it. Only 2 of them are on the track. It took me like an hour to write the whole song and all those 5 verses, because it just felt really easy, and there were some really easy lyrical patterns to just repeat over and over again. That's Reopen. Fast forward a little bit to I had my band running, and I started doing live shows, and I was thinking, okay, how can I write a song that gets the crowd involved? Crowd engagement, how can I create that? And I was thinking, okay, what can people say very easily? Whoa, na na na, la la la. Whoa just felt nice and punchy, so I went with that. And I needed a song topic. I wanted something exciting. And just a few days later, I was sitting with my friend at U of T, just having food, and then this girl who, normally sticks up her nose at me, is too cool to talk to me, too cool to be associated with me, comes and sits down beside us and starts talking. She's like, oh, Kiara, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't mention my band, but I think that was the main reason she was coming up to me. And she all of a sudden was acting like my friend, and she started copying some mannerisms, and then copying some of my ideas, and I was like, wait a minute, I thought you were too cool for me. So this song I wrote kind of being like, okay, what's up? Come after me. Hunt Me Down is to kind of invite her to continue copying me because I knew she couldn't keep up. It's a completely narcissistic song. Pretty fun live, so that's why I keep it around. The guitar line was actually inspired by me writing a flute part for it during my Redwood Theater show, which if you don't know about that, you can watch this video over here. Simple, but it was supposed to be for a flute. Mostly I like that F sharp too. Sounds pretty cool. And you can also see that the chord progressions are a little more complicated than the other 2 songs, because now I had a band, so I was getting a little more experimental with my chord progressions. Not by much yet. Around the same time as Hunt Me Down, I had this weird cloud over me, and I guess also like longing for a relationship. My friends were getting into relationships. And at the time, only one song kind of resonated with me, which was Billie Eilish's Happier Than Ever. And I don't listen to much Billie Eilish, and this song I discovered, a few years after it's been released, and I was like, this is really good. And so I would be playing that song on the piano, just singing along to it. And then I realized that the first half of the song is in 4/4, and the second half of the song is in 3/4, and I thought switching to 3/4 gave it this really strong emotional punch. And I was like, I want to write something like that. So my song Rose Tinted Frames, which is my version of Happier Than Ever, tells the story of this girl. That girl's me, this lonely girl with a cloud over her head. And in the verses, you'll notice it speaks in the third person, talking about that girl, and we have it in 4/4. Not far from your eyes, you see a girl standing still. We have our 4/4. And when it goes to the chorus, it switches to the first person and it switches to 3/4 to get that punch. Come seek me out, I know that you'll reach and find me. If you count along, you'll see the differences. And the song kind of switches between the two, and then we go into the bridge, and then we go into the relative major of the key the song is in, which is E flat major. And we sing the chorus again. Come seek me out, I know that you'll reach and find me. Same thing, just reharmonized. I think it gives another layer of just wanting to get out of this state, waiting for someone to come pick you up and give you a happier life. You'll notice also in the track there are a lot of string parts. Most of those string parts were written by me for my Redwood Beater gig. So if you look into that, we have like some you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So that was from that gig. Anyways, that's Roasting New Things. So this next one, this is one of my favorite songs, if not my favorite song, My Reality. I wrote this and I had this massive crush on this boy. He's so cute, smart, and I was like, oh, I want him so badly. And I wrote it about how my track record for understanding if a guy likes me back is pretty crappy. I think they're interested, and then they're not apparently, and I'm like, what? So this song is me balancing that happiness and excitement with being like, okay, calm down, Kiara. Your track record is pretty awful. You know, he probably doesn't like you, which at the time he did like me. But I was like, he probably does. You could even see it in the first line. Here I go again to repeat myself and tell you a story you already know. It's pretty honest. It's pretty on the nose. But it makes me feel so happy every time I sing it. I just get so excited. And musically, my inspiration for this one was Garbage's song. The band Garbage, not just Garbage music. The band Garbage, one of my favorite bands ever. Only Happy When It Rains. And what I liked from that song, which many songs do it, which is at the time I was listening to this one, was starting the melody before the beat kicks in. I'm only happy when it rains. I'm only happy when it's complicated. And I just really like that na 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 on the important word, which is rains, because that's the title of the song, Only Happy When It Rains. And for my song, I go, they'll ask me how I fail to find flags waved at me. On the word how, because how am I in this situation again? How am I letting myself do this again? Fun fact, those flags in the chorus, what that means is the red flags. He doesn't like you! He doesn't like you! But it doesn't matter because I like him and maybe he likes me back. Since I had the chorus starting before the beat, I looked at the pre-chorus and the verse and I said, okay, I want my verse to start on the beat, which we have. Here I go again to repeat myself. Right on the beat, and the pre-chorus. Seeing him, let me be naive again. You know, so that was very intentional. Anyways, my favorite song on the track. And actually, yeah, I did tell that guy. It was about him 4 months into our relationship, so we had a happy ending. He's watching right now. The last song we have, which is the last song I wrote, Sick of It. This one, we didn't know this would be the strongest track on the EP. Because when I did it live, it didn't give that punch that the record does, and it didn't really stand out. Why I liked it was because of the pre-chorus, which I'll get to in a bit. But this song, why I wrote it, I had 2 friends and they started talking at one of my shows and I was like, oh my god, something's happening. Oh, I'm so excited, I'm gonna go on double dates with them. This is amazing. And I just got so excited and so interested in the gossip of it that I would always go to my girlfriend and be like, okay, what's the update? Did you guys go on a date? Did you do this? So much that I wrote this song saying, I'm gonna keep asking you questions until you're sick of me. They didn't end up dating, but I did I did capture that blissful feeling I had of like them potentially dating. When I first wrote the chorus, it was only 2 lines long. You can't hide me and now I'm over it. You know you won't get away. I'll stick until you are sick of it. And then it would end. And then go back into the verse, the pre-chorus, and then the second time I would add 2 more lines, so then it would be 4 lines long, which is what it is on the record right now. And then the third time I would visit the chorus, it would be 6 lines long. And the idea was every single time I sang the chorus, it's like me asking for more questions from my friend. Okay, so what happened? What happened on this date? Tell me more, because I got more and more invested. That idea didn't translate too well on the record, so that's why we have 4, 4. And then it ends with 6 when I go up to the middle harmonies. Does it end in 6? I think it ends in 6. I guess, okay, if it doesn't end in 6, I don't know, it's been a while.
You should ask the person who wrote the song.
Yeah, who wrote this? Oh, wait! If you know me in my personal life, every time I talk about this song, I like to point out how the pre-chorus is a chromatic scale. I did that intentionally also. I thought a chromatic scale would be really cool leading into this hype chorus. Really great, you know? Good idea, Kiara. Good job, Kiara. Yeah, we didn't know this one would be the best song and that it would be the one to get the music video and everything. But I'm happy because it is a banger. So then when I was coming up with a name for this EP, I had one idea initially, was to call it Flawless Design, which is a lyric in the song Reopen. My dad had a dream, he told me, that, oh my god, your album came out and it was called A Flawless Design. This was before we were recording, so I was like, okay, so that's probably gonna be the name because if it shows up in a dream, it's probably good. But something about it was still a bit like iffy. I thought it was really cheesy, but I didn't really have any other ideas. So then when I was doing some reflective work on what I should actually call the EP, I was thinking, what is relevant in my life right now? What are the songs talking about? Where was I in my life? And I noticed that usually when I was talking to my friends, I would always be like, oh, I'm just dealing with some girl drama right now, or there's some girl drama going on here. And I would use that term more than I should have because it kind of sounds silly. And then I came into the studio and Aakash was there, and my friend Cameron Summers, who's another artist, was also in the studio that day. And I said, okay guys, I have 2 ideas for the album. We have a Flawless Design, which I think is a little cheesy, and then we have Girl Drama. And both of them were like, well, you gotta name it Girl Drama, that sounds great. And I'm like, would guys listen to this? And they're like, of course we'd listen to it. We all have girl drama in our life. And I was like, okay. And now 80% of my listeners on Spotify are male. Hi boys, thank you for listening. So then, yeah, we just put girl drama on it and everyone kind of liked that. My final thoughts on this EP, I'm very proud of it. I think all the songs are really good. I think they all fit well with the themes of girl drama and girl drama. So this EP really feels like my way of getting back at all those bullies, all my friends who cut me off. It's my indirect way of fighting back because directly, that only made things worse for me. Thank you to all you guys for putting me through horrible situations that inspired me to write songs. So kind of going forward after Girl Drama, I was like, oh my god, how am I going to follow up on all these hype songs? That I decided to actually go in a different direction and not really talk about girl drama, but more about just some relationships and like personal, introspective ideas, more shoegaze and melody, fancy musically creative album. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and watch out for the new music. How does this song go? No, that's the other song. This is Aakash changed them all to F sharp minor.
Yeah, because F sharp is great for guitar.
But it's like the songs were every single song was in a different key, but then Aakash changed all the keys.
Bruh.